your rockers, your punks, your freaks, your geeks, your Greeks, your party animals, your gangsters, your commuters, your residents, your students, your alums, your lawyers, your truckers, your calls, your tweets. And we'll give you rock, classic, indie, punk, alternative, easy, hard, raps, rhymes, mixes, and drops. We'll give you kick-ass music because we're WPSC 88.7 FM, Brave New Radio. Sound good?
Well, good morning, wonderful morning. The fact that we are still breathing, the fact that we are still alive, we are still on top of the earth makes this yet another good day. If you can hear the sound of my voice, you are listening to another edition of The Reading Circle with your host, Marc Medley. We come to you live each Saturday morning from 6 o'clock a.m. to 7 o'clock a.m. where we interview authors and bring you what's going on in the literary world. But before we do that, we have a ritual and a routine that we go through each Saturday morning. And following me at 6 o'clock hour and the 7 o'clock hour will be the M&M hour, where we put on the good news and song, which is the gospel music. Then at 8 o'clock, the Martha and Friends hour, where we continue with the gospel music. But right now, we are in the Reading Circle hour, and my guest is already on the air. So I'm going to do what I need to do so that we can get on with our interview. First off, I'm going to go ahead and share the weather with you. Then I'm going to read from our two books, What Can Happen When We Pray and Until Today. So I'm going to go ahead without further ado and do just that. So let me let you know what's going on with the weather. Right now we are at 69.9 degrees. We are moving up to a high of 84. Expect mixed clouds today and sun with scattered thunderstorms. Again, as I said, high of 84. Scattered thunderstorms tonight. Partly cloudy skies after midnight, that 50% chance of rain. And then tomorrow the sun pops back out for Sunday. Plentiful sunshine, high of 94, low of 72. Expect some scattered thunderstorms during the evening. Partly cloudy skies after midnight. And then on Monday, sunshine along with some cloudy intervals, 10% chance of rain, and a few clouds on Monday night, a high of 91 and a low of 66. And on Tuesday, a mix of clouds and sun early, then becoming cloudy later in the day, 20% chance of rain, high of 89, low of 66, clearing up on Tuesday night, and rounding out the forecast on Wednesday, mainly sunny, high of 89, low of 64, clear skies on Wednesday night. That is our forecast, brought to you right here from the WP 88.7 FM Weather Center. Well, as I said, I read from 2 books that kicks the show off in a positive vein. And we do that each week, and everything else just seems to flow once I do that. So from the book, What Can Happen When We Pray, for today, July the 18th, it says, the power of a simple prayer. Be merciful to me, O God, be merciful to me, for in you my soul takes refuge. In the shadow of your wings I will take refuge until the destroying storms pass by. Today's prayer. Merciful God, I am grateful for your loving kindness that finds me even when I am in the depths of despair and pain. You search me out. You touch with your grace those broken places I keep hidden from the world. Your love is too wonderful for me to understand. I can only receive it and be thankful. Amen. Today's reflection. In January 1978, my maternal grandmother and my younger brother both died within 24 hours of each other. It was the first time that my faith had ever been tested. I was so overwhelmed by grief and sorrow that I could not speak an intelligent prayer. I repeated over and over the simple words, Lord, have mercy. I don't remember how long I uttered these words, but at some point I was flooded with a peace and calmness. I did not know what was possible. My weeping eased, my pulse slowed, my soul rested in the presence of my Savior. My faith was strengthened because I felt the presence of God with me and in my despair. In our darkest moments, God hears our cries and pleas for help. God sends angels of mercy and peace to soothe our hearts and quiet our minds. It is good to express our deepest emotions. God will be there. On this, we can depend. That's from the book, What Can Happen When We Pray, from the book Until Today by Iyanla Vanzant. She says, for July 18th, I will gain more understanding when I realize there are some things I need to heal before I can forget them. There are some things in the back of your mind about which you are still hurt, angry, and even confused. These are not things that you think about every day. In fact, for many of us, these things are so far in the back of our minds, we no longer remember them. Rest assured, however, that they remember us. At times, these things become the source of the fear, anger, guilt, shame, or pain that can control what we do and how we do it. You will know you are being controlled by a memory if you insist on doing a certain thing in a certain way, because you are convinced your reason for doing it is right. You can be pretty sure you are being controlled by a memory when you interpret the things you see or hear in ways that cause you anger, fear, or resentment. When a memory of something you have forgotten is controlling your life, you will say things that are not true. You will do things that are not productive. You will hear things that are not said. You will see things that are not there. You will respond in ways that are inappropriate and out of character. In these cases, your soul is calling out for healing. What was going on then will continue to happen now as long as you forget to remember it. A repressed memory will push itself into your consciousness to be healed. It will stand up until it receives the attention and recognition it deserves. Everything you have experienced deserves to be honored and embraced. Yes, some things also need to be healed. Until you are willing to remember the things you have learned to forget, you cannot participate in or benefit from the joys of healing your life. Until today, you may have been struggling with yourself to gain control of your life. Just for today, try acknowledging and healing the forgotten memories that do not increase your sense of self-worth and value. Today, I am devoted to remembering the memories that are controlling my life. That's from the book Until Today by Iyanla Vanzant. And now the time has come for me to introduce my guest, who's patiently waiting on the line. And that is none other. She is not a stranger to the show, as she has been with us before. It is Kumari Ghafoor-Davis. MSW. She has over 18 years experience in social services. She has worked with children and families for the majority of those years in schools, inpatient and outpatient programs, independent living, aging out programs for foster care youth, group homes, halfway houses, and crisis units for adults and children. As a social worker and parent coach expert, Kumari's consulting company, Optimistic Expectations, offers workshops to parents so they will have more tools in their parental journey. Students' workshops are offered to promote more personal, academic, and social success. Her team also offers professional development trainings to teachers, administrators, and auxiliary staff. Optimistic Expectations Teams has a hands-on interactive training style with a goal to provide practical skills that will aid participants to be more effective and productive in their role as parent, student, and or teacher administrator. Kumari uses her book, and that's what she was on the show for the last time, Real Talk, 10 Parenting Strategies to Raise Confident, Successful Children, as a guide and curriculum offering practical strategies to raise children who are academically and socially successful, as well as self-confident, integrity-filled, and resilient. Kumari has also created a game, which we're going to talk about this morning, called Family Values, the game that gets families talking. So families can have more ways to connect, to build relationships, share morals, values, communicate their thoughts, ideals, and familial concerns. Family Values will be available, and it is now available this summer of this year, 2015. Optimistic Expectation Team trains and facilitates workshops in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York in churches, nonprofits, public private schools, and daycare centers. They provide in-service trainings to public private school staff, teachers, and mental health trainings to nonprofit organizations. Some clients includes districts such as Newark Public Schools, Harrison, Orange, Hillside, Plainfield, Union City, Elizabeth, Hoboken, Bernardsville, Irvington, as well as Essex County Youth House, UMD&J, Seton Hall, Isaiah House, and the FSO-FSC of New Jersey. Kumari is currently an adjunct professor in continuing education at Montclair State University and has worked at Essex County, Passaic County, and Hunter College in the sociology and social work departments since 2002. So we are going to welcome back to our microphones Kumari Ghafoor-Davis. Kumari, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for the introduction.
Oh, you are more than welcome. And I tell folks all the time, the length of the bio really does not deter me from reading the whole thing. And I share that with folks because I want the listening audience to hear the entire thing, because it is my hope and intention that they will say, well, if Kumari can do it, I can do it. If it can happen for Kumari, it can happen for me. So I hope the bios act as an inspiration to folks who are listening to say, wow, she's been able to do all of that. She's been able to do this, that, and the other. Maybe I can get up off my butt and I can do a little something too.
Of course. Yes, always.
So yeah, that's the hope and the intention. So we're going to share some information with the listening audience. Listening audience, you know the deal. While I'm sharing this with you, you are to get on all of your social media sites, and you are to let folks know that Kumari is on the line with me again, and that we're going to be sharing some good stuff, particularly in terms of the family and in terms of parenting, which is a subject which is near and dear to my heart. So let someone know that Kumari is on the line with me. We're going to be talking about family. We're going to be talking about parenting. We're going to talk about children. We'll talk a little bit about all of it. So let somebody know. Share on all of your social media sites. Wake somebody up. Text them. Call them. I don't care how you get in touch with them, but tell them to tune in to gobrave.org, or if they're in the local area, WP 88.7 FM.
Good stuff.
Thinking about you. XOXOXO. Want to snuggle. ... JK. Hit me back. You getting these texts? ? We should hang later. I miss you. Holla at ya, boy. Holla back. Holla back. Holla back. Are you at home? Where are you? What are you doing? OMG, you are making me mad. Are you with your ex? You better text me back. I'm waiting outside your house.
Relentless aggressive texting is like sending an angry robot to deliver your message. When does the robot become dangerous? Let us know at that'snotcool.com.
That'snotcool.com.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
WP 88.7. We're braver than skinny dipping in the middle of January. See? I told you. Brave New Radio.
That's right, you're listening to Brave New Radio. And that's our tagline because we can go places some of the other radio stations can't go. Since we're a non-commercial, a non-paid advertisement type station, we can kind of do some things and bring on some folks that other stations may not, or either choose not to do so because they are restricted or kind of guided by advertising dollars. That's not our case here, so we are Brave New Radio. As I said, my guest this morning is Kumari Ghafoor-Davis. She's been on the show before, so she is not a stranger. The last time she was on, and we're going to kind of review and kind of go back over that again, to talk about her book, Real Talk, 10 Parenting Strategies to Raise Confident, Successful Children. Now, you heard me say before we shared the information with you that the whole parenting thing is near and dear to my heart. And Kumari, I'm going to tell you why. Because I was raised and still believe, and no one can shake that belief, that everything starts in the home. And they're putting a whole lot on schools and teachers and everybody else, the government and this, that, and the other, when the truth of the matter is most of our ills would be corrected if we had some more things going on in our homes. And it's my understanding, having read the book and talked with parents about the book and sitting through your workshops, that Real Talk is to kind of help in that venture, if you will, in terms of raising our children. Talk to me a little bit about how did you come to the point of wanting to put together Real Talk, 10 Parenting Strategies to Raise Confident, Successful Children?
Yes, that is a great question, Mark. It's so interesting about when I first started working with children and families, I worked with children in schools. I mean, I started out back in 1992, 93, working with children in schools, children with special needs. And then as the time went on, I started working with children who were in foster care. And I knew back then that there was a serious disconnect because as you know, there's such a large number of children in foster care in the state of New Jersey, or their families are being monitored. And because of that, something inside me just said, parents really need help. Because when I would meet the children, they would be so, they wanted to know their parents. And even if their parents weren't involved in their life, they still wanted to know who they were. They wanted to know what they were about. And when I would talk with their parents, even if they didn't have custody of their children, they still loved their kids. But it was just kind of like something going on in their life where they couldn't keep them, or something going on in their life where they, couldn't raise them. So I really knew back way long ago, over 20 years, that there's a disconnect between parents and children. Then as time went on and I would talk with more parents, I realized that parents really did not know how to make sure their kids were even just emotionally sound. Even parents who were in their children's lives every single day were struggling. They were struggling with, how do I talk with this child? How do I connect with this kid? A lot of them were going by what they had learned, and sometimes what they had learned was not really a great relationship with their parents, and then they would put it on their own kids. So I learned over the years that parents needed tools, they needed resources, and they needed to have more and more resources to be able to talk with their kids, have a conversation with their kids, and that's pretty much how Real Talk was born.
And in terms of putting that together, what did you find? Did you find any challenges, or what were your opportunities as you began now to put that project together?
You know what? I knew in the beginning that I just wanted to get into the hands of parents. The opportunities that have opened up for me since I wrote the book are phenomenal. I mean, I've worked with about 15 to 20 school districts in the state of New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania. I'm contracted in a few school districts as well to go in and do the workshops every year. So the opportunities have been immense. What I found was that I just wanted to reach even more parents. So I do parent coaching in my office in Clifton, New Jersey. I work with parents when they have concerns, when they don't have the best relationships with their kids. I go to parents' homes when they're not able to get to the office to work with the families. Because I found that, we're in a time right now where technology is so relevant. And back in the day, they used to always make these comments that, families need to eat together more. They're not eating together at the dinner table because parents are out working. And now we have this recession that we've gone through, and we're still probably going through. Parents are eating more with their kids. They are at home eating more with their kids. A lot of parents are eating home every single day with their kids. However, technology has now taken a big role where everyone's at the table with their phones.
Correct.
Computers.
That's right.
So I don't know the last time you went to a restaurant, you looked over at the table next to you, and no one was talking.
That's
Everyone
right.
was sitting there on their phone.
They're texting each other.
Yes. How are you texting to your child that dinner's ready? And I've done it myself, but I just think it's just so interesting, how families are still not connecting. They're still not talking. So the book was really born out of just the fact that we need to have more conversation. We need to not just say, how was your day? And they say, fine. And then they go to their room. And there's no more dialogue after that. Come for dinner. Come eat. Everybody eats. There's really no dialogue.
Right. Well, I tell you what blows me away as a principal is when a parent comes into me of an 8 or 9 or 10-year-old and says, I truly don't know what to do with them anymore. I don't know what to do. And this is like an 8 or 9 or 10-year-old. That always blows me away because I'm like, but you're the parent. You're the adult. Mm-hmm. What do we say to parents that have just, with a child that's 8 or 9 years old that says, I have no idea what to do with them?
Yeah. But unfortunately, because sometimes parents are dealing with like limited resources and limited skills, and it's not parents were completely lost. I guess that what I'm trying to say is children are basically being raised in a completely different time than we were. You were exposed to so much so early. You can sit there and watch a 2 or 3-year-old with a phone. They know how to get on the internet.
That's correct.
They know how to. I remember when my son, who's now 7, was playing with my phone in the back seat one night. He was 3 years old. He had found the map. He knew where we were. He's telling me, Mommy, we're here. I'm like, I don't even know how to find my map on my phone. and what's so interesting is that they're on a completely different level than we were. So we're really struggling to connect with them because
That's
they're
true.
on a completely different plane than we are. Their minds are completely different than ours than when we were younger. We didn't have all this rapid information coming at us at rapid speeds every single second. Our kids have so much information thrown at them on a daily basis that we have to stay connected.
That's
correct. We have to sit there with their the conversations that they have with their friends. We have to sit there when they're watching their television shows to see what information is going into their head. We can't just sit them in front of a television like we used to. A lot of us did back in the day. However, now, even the cartoons need to be solicited.
That's
It's not the same anymore. So I see why parents are saying, I don't know what to do with this child, because by the time they're 9, they're probably 19.
It's true. So now the title of your book is Real Talk, because in your commentary a couple of minutes ago, you were saying in terms of dialogue and getting families to talk more, but your book is titled Real Talk. Talk to me a little bit about the difference between just talk and real talk.
Well, what's interesting is that I came up with that title because as I was writing the book, I was really insistent on making sure that parents understood that back in the day, I remember my mother would filter everything. I remember her not saying things to me because she didn't want to, whether it was harm me, whether it was expose me, whether it was, I don't want to tell her that just yet, that kind of thing.
Right.
And I appreciate it. But honestly, I wish you would have been more real with me. I really wish you would have told me what really was out there, instead of trying to keep me from it. And me being a child who went to Catholic school most of my life, I remember everything being filtered. I remember never being exposed to everything that I probably should have been exposed to, even if it wasn't my lifestyle, but just being told, And I really feel like parents need to be more real with their kids, have more real conversations with them in terms of getting to the nitty-gritty of what could really happen to you and showing them documentaries and, giving them information that can assist them in navigating their own lives, because we don't want them to go out there lost, and we don't want them going out there listening to their friends. We want to be able to give it to them ourselves, that information that is going to guide them through their lives.
That is correct.
That's what Real Talk is about. We've really got to be real with our kids, talk with them, let them see what is really out there and what could really happen to them. I remember having conversations with my oldest son, who's now 22 years old, graduate of Drexel University, has an economics degree. And I remember when he was younger, just making sure that even though I had him very young, like even the sex conversations, because my mother never really told me what really could get me pregnant, And I remember when I got pregnant, I was like, whoa, I'm 19 years old, I'm pregnant. I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to do now?
Right.
It was about me going to school, going to college, making sure that I did all the things that I still wanted to do. And I wanted to make sure that I raised this kid that was not completely oblivious to what was really going on in the world,
Right.
So it's just about just making sure that we stay connected, stay connected to their world. Make sure that we're not have our blinders on. It's kind of like when you have that parent that comes into your office and you're telling them what their kid is doing, and they're like, not my child.
That's right. Not my baby. No, my baby didn't do that. Baby. Like, yes, your baby is.
Yeah. Exactly. Your baby is off the hook. Yes, and unfortunately, as parents, a lot of times we have our own blinders on because we feel like it's our fault.
Right.
Or we take on this responsibility like, oh, my gosh, what did I do? Woe is me, woe is me. We start to feel sorry for ourselves instead of saying, let me help this kid navigate their life.
That's right.
So that's what it's about, Real Talk.
And
it's about not having our blinders on. It's about not thinking, not my child would never do something like that. It's about taking the responsibility and saying, this child is struggling, and I need to help them.
That's right.
One of my last strategies is advocate for your child. And so because so many parents, and even when I've worked in schools that are walking around acting like there's nothing wrong with their child. Literally, child has a speech impediment at 3 years old, and you know that you need to get resources, but you don't get the resources. So at 8 years old, they're still struggling.
That's right.
So it's about, getting early intervention when you know that there's something wrong, something's going wrong. Your child is not developing the way that they should be, but because you are, your ego's so big, oh, not my child, So I guess that's really what the Real Talk is about, just making sure that we're being real with ourselves and being real with our children so that we can help them navigate their life. Because I've seen parents that have gotten early intervention for their kids, and by the time the kid's in second grade, the child is developing fine.
Right.
But it's about taking on the responsibility and saying, what can I do to help my kid?
Absolutely. And it really is, and I was sitting here reflecting as you were talking about filtering. And I had a combination of both, and I guess my parents were kind of figuring out when conversations and things would be age appropriate. But I can remember when Donna Summer had "Love to Love You, Baby," that song, and every time that would come on the car radio, my mother would like, turn that off. She didn't want us to hear that. She didn't want my mother and father sitting my sister and I down at the table. Said, now look, we're gonna give you the street terms and we're gonna give you the clinical terms when we had the sex talk. So they broke it down. When you hear this, they mean that. And so they said, we want you to hear it from us before you hear it, as you said, before your friends out there on the street, because they're gonna give you some misinformation. But I remember very well saying whenever Donna Summers' "Love to Love You, Baby" would come on, I'm like, I hate that song. And she'd turn it off. And I didn't know why until later on. But she would.
Yes, she would. She wouldn't even have the radio on. What's so funny is that even like last night, we went to my our goddaughter's sweet 16 birthday. In the room, her parents had these guys called Little Man. It's DJ Little Man.
All right.
And they came to the room and they're dancing and the dancing was so sexual. My husband and I are looking at each other, and we're like, are we that out of touch that we have no idea who the guys are? Music is blaring in this room with these teenagers, and we are literally on our phones looking up who these guys are. Who they were. And my husband actually is in the music industry and has produced music, and he's like, I have no idea who they are. like we were having a senior moment.
I know that's right.
But at the same time, it's like they were so sexual. I mean, the way that the gyrating of the bodies and the movement and all that, and the kids just screaming like they're looking at the Beatles. It was hilarious. Or back in our day, Tribe Called Quest.
Right.
But it was just so hilarious how it was happening. We're sitting there looking at each other like shaking our heads like we need to go home and go to bed at 10 o'clock.
But it is true. But it does go back to what you were saying a few minutes ago about the exposure level at an earlier age.
Yes.
Because they are exposed to a lot early on. Things that I was just having this conversation with my sister-in-law last night. I said, I didn't really start thinking about girls and looking at girls till I was about 12. I said, up until that point, I just did not dawn on me that girls were attractive and this, that, and the other. They were just like, they were playmates like anybody else. So, but now you have kids who come to that whole girl. I've literally in my office had like 8 and 9 year olds again talking about girlfriend and boyfriend.
Yeah.
So at 8, 9 years old, girlfriend and boyfriend wasn't even a vocabulary. And then they're talking about we going out. Or where you going? You 8 years old. Where you going?
I know. And what's crazy is that because I've been in social services for so long, and because I've worked with children and families for so long, I've seen the 9-year-old mother.
Right.
I've seen the 12-year-old father. I've worked with them. It is real, and it's scary because I have a 7-year-old. And I remember when I first worked with these children, just in my mind, like, what is going on in your household that you are pregnant?
Right.
I mean, I look at kids at 18, 19, like even myself, like what's going on in your household and you're pregnant? Where was the disconnect? Because that's not normal, So I just think it's just so interesting how the dynamic has changed and how just parents are just so disconnected from their kids that their kids are just out there getting information from somebody else all the time.
Yeah. I mean, and
all the time. Because there's a disconnect. If your child's pregnant at 12, 13, 14, 18, there's a disconnect. There's something going on. And I think that parents don't recognize it. I remember having a conversation with a family member, and their daughter was out of control. And they literally said to me, I don't know what to do with her. I'm just done. She's going to do what she wants to do anyway. And I said, what? In 14, I'll be dead. One of my child's going to do whatever they want to do.
I said the same thing. I'm going to share some more information when we come back. I'm going to put this to let you think about it while this information is going. This whole notion of being a parent versus being a friend. Because, see, I saw something that was a perfect quote the other day. It says, we don't need you to be their best friend. We need you to be their best parent. Yeah. And there's a difference between being a best friend and a best parent. So I want to talk about that whenever we return on the microphone. But listening audience, get on your sites, get on there. This is your chance to get on all your social media sites and let folks know that we're having a conversation about parenting and children. And that ultimately, before it's over, we're going to have Kumari talk about the game that she's developed to foster that communication. So good stuff, good information that's going on, and somebody needs to know it, and it is your job to let them know it. Wherever you are in the country, wherever you are in the world, tell someone to tune in to gobrave.org.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't seen your lap in months. And even more stuff. But still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Hi, my name is Stan Myers, and I'm here at FM 88.7. I do a jazz show called Just a Mood. And if you like the music, anything from Louis to Lester Boyd, I'm your man. That's Sunday afternoons, 3 to 6. Looking to hear from you, okay?
You're listening to The Reading Circle with your host, Marc Medley. My guest this morning is Kumari Ghafoor-Davis, and she works with families and children in school district. And right before I shared the information with you, the public service announcement and the promo, I threw out there for Kumari this whole notion of the difference between being a best friend and a best parent. In other words, in my mind, and I'll very quickly tell my children is I am not necessarily striving to be your friend. I am your parent, and therefore, as the parent, I have a job to do and a role to do, and you may not like all of the things that I have to say to you or ask you to do, and that's all right, because as the parent, that's my job, compared with those that are trying to be their friend, so they won't put their foot down or they won't have their kids do anything because they're so concerned with being their friend. Kumari, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I see it all the time. I see it all the time in my practice. I see it all the time when I do workshops and parents come to me afterward and tell me what their concerns are about their child. I see it all the time, even in my friends. And it's so interesting to me because I have this conversation all the time, my 7-year-old, whenever he says to me, but they're doing it. I'm quite sure I'm not the only one that's heard that before. But such and such is doing it, but such and such is doing this. And we always have these conversations because as parents, we have to make sure that we let our kids know that my goal is not to be your friend. I mean, we have to tell them that. And we have to tell them that, my goal is to make sure you're safe, that you're okay, that you're making good decisions, that I'm guiding you the way I'm supposed to guide you. And I've even said to both of my children, I tell them all the time that, I'm not perfect. I tell them I'm not a perfect person. But I do know what I think is best for you. And my goal is to make sure that you're okay. That's the objective of parenting. Just to make sure that we're raising our kids, giving them everything that they need so that you are equipped to go out into the world and make good decisions.
That's true.
Because if we're not guiding you towards that, what is our purpose?
That's true.
What is our purpose? We're not raising you so that you can stay in the house with us for the first run of your life. We're raising you so that we can push you out into the world and do something good with your life. Bless the world with your talents and all of the things that you do, that you know how to do. And it's so interesting to me because whenever he says that to me, of course, the first thing as a parent, you're kind of like frustrated, like, here we go again. And, and I'll say to him, I'm not their parent, I'm yours, which is usually what every parent says, right?
That's correct.
And my goal is for you to be okay. I can't worry about that child too. That's their mother's job. My goal is to make sure that you are okay, that you are making good decisions. So when parents make make that choice, and sometimes it's a point of something that happened for them when they were younger. Being a social worker, I'm always looking at trends in people's lives, and and things that have happened in people's lives. They come up for them again. So a lot of times when I meet those parents that are their child's friend, it normally is not end up being a good situation. It normally is not. Whether it's the child is 9 years old and they're trying to be their friend, or whether it's just the fact that their child is 15 years old and they're trying to be their friend, we've got to set limits and boundaries as parents. And those limits and boundaries should be in line with our morals and values, our traditions, things that we want our kids to learn, those lessons, those nuggets they need to be a great person when they get older. If they're a person of faith, having that faith and carrying it through into their life. It's about us making sure that we are trying to give them all those things that they need to be the greatest person ever. And it can't be because we're trying to be their friend.
And that's true. You said something a couple of minutes ago about not being perfect and then helping your child understand this is where I feel is best for you. But what the kids need to understand is we can say that in terms of, because first off, we've been on the planet probably 2 to 3 to 4 times longer than they've been on the planet. And we also have experiences, and we've gone down some roads that's messed us up, going back to the not perfect thing. So we're trying to keep you from going down those same roads because we know where that road will lead.
Right. And as parents, what's crazy is that I've even had to tell even my friends, the ones who try to shield their kid from everything, And I'll tell them, I don't know if that's the best way to do it.
That's right. That's the other end of the spectrum. You're right.
Every child learns differently. And some of them might learn by the mistakes that you've made. And you may not have to necessarily, quote unquote, preach to them all the time if you tell them what you went through that gives you this idea of why they shouldn't do what they're doing.
And see, that goes back to the real talk again.
Yes, because I've had a conversation with a friend of mine recently who's struggling with her son. You know, her and her husband, you know, are working hard, making sure their kids have everything that they need, live in a wonderful neighborhood, they're in a great schools, but her son and her have no connection. And I had to tell her one day, you know, maybe you need to be a little more real with them. You know, maybe you need to be a little bit more, you know, real with what's happening in your life, what you've gone through, you know, and try not to be judgmental. Because a lot of times as parents, we can be condescending. That is real. You know, we can say to our kids all this information, give them all this information that we're trying to, you know, tell them why you should do what they're doing, and they almost feel like we're judging them by their choices. You know, so we have to make sure that we watch our tone. You know, just because we're parents doesn't mean we can say whatever we want. That's real. You know, I mean, we have to still respect our kids for being who they are. You know, we want them to respect us and, you know, and hear us and listen to us all the time, but then we feel like we can say whatever we want out of our mouths, and that's not right. And I tell parents all the time, unfortunately, if your child and you do not have a good relationship, you probably need to look at yourself and find out why. Because your child is seeking a good relationship. Kids want to have great relationships with their kids.
That's right.
They want to. They want to. They want to be able to tell us stuff.
That's right.
They want to be able to talk to us about things that are going on in their lives. But if we make them feel judged, if we make them feel like, oh, what you did was wrong, tisk, 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 if they feel like they can't talk to us, they're not going to talk to us.
Right.
So I tell parents that all the time. If your relationship is not good with your kid, it's because of you. You know, if you've given your kid no limits and boundaries and you have not set any kind of tones of what your expectations are and what they should expect for themselves, not just what our expectations are. We can't just keep telling them, well, I expect this and I expect that. They need to have an expectation of themselves as well. That's how we get good acting kids. That's how we get kids who are respectful, because they have great expectations of themselves.
That's true. That is very true. And that's the trick right there, is to want more for yourself.
Yes. And we have to instill that early. You can't start telling them that at 12.
That's right.
15.
That's right.
You got to tell them that from the very, very beginning. You have to have a level of expectation of yourself. You have to want this more than I want it for you.
It's true. I had a situation during this past graduation that literally broke my heart, and everyone I tell the story to. Because I had a child that all year long, and this is an academically sound child. Of course, now because of her little friends, because they're on the slower side, she dumbs herself down. She doesn't want her friends to know that she's smart. But the kid really is smart. She'll blow our state tests away. She can hang in there. She'll choose not to. But in any event, she was an 8th grader. And her little girlfriend had messed around and done something where she couldn't participate in the graduation ceremony. She still was going to get her little certificate of graduation, but she was not going to be on the stage with the cap and gowns and all that good stuff. So I'm sitting on the stage as graduation is going through, and I look up on the stage, up on the balcony, because you've been in the auditorium. I look up on the balcony, and I see her prance across. I see the girl that couldn't participate in the graduation prance across the top of the balcony with like a midriff shirt and shorts. And I see her girlfriend with her that could graduate had on this nice little dress, which is unusual for her because normally she's the one in the midriffs and the sexy clothes and this, that, and the other. And I said to the VP, I said, now that's odd. This child that normally is in the sexy sex pot clothing, she's in a nice little dress. I said, did she do something where she couldn't march? And she said, no. I said, well, is she taking a stance with her girlfriend because she couldn't march? And she said, no. And after graduation, she told me the story. She said the young lady wanted to graduate, wanted to march and everything. And because her mother didn't come to the graduation ceremony, she said, forget it then. And come to find out, the mother had told her, I got something else to do. And I'm sitting there like, what could have been more important? Now, granted, it's only 8th grade, but that's still a graduation ceremony. What could have been more important than coming to your child's graduation? So the girl took on the stance, which she will not forget that, I am sure, for the rest of her days, that her mother didn't come to that graduation ceremony. So she just said, because my mother's not here and she's not coming, forget it. I don't want to march. And she didn't march. But I'm sharing that story to say how much of an impact we as parents have on our kids. Even the little roughneck kid, because that's a facade. She's putting up this front that, and probably now I got a better understanding, and I'm not a psychologist or a sociologist or any of the ologists, but I have some pretty good idea of how people operate. That gave me a pretty good feeling as to why this kid is the way the kid is. Because most likely she puts up this tough facade front because she's been hurt so many times. And now that mother has added that hurt to it by not coming to that graduation.
Yeah. Unfortunately, as parents, we don't always take our role as seriously as we should. I see it all the time. I talk to children all the time who don't feel as though their parents are emotionally connected to them, that are not there for them, not even physically. I mean, they're feeding them every day, but just emotionally.
Right.
And it's very important for us as parents to ensure that our children's emotional needs are being met. That mom, may not recognize how important her, being there for her child impacts her child. She may not recognize that, it hurts her child that she doesn't show up for her. And that's a very sad story because, unfortunately, so many of our young ladies and young men who feel ignored and who feel neglected emotionally, they end up turning towards other means in their lives, other people in their lives that are not good for them because they feel like no one's there, because they feel like no one's paying attention to me. I've seen kids who have wilded out just because they want somebody to show up at school for them. I'm quite sure you've seen that as well. It's unfortunate that we don't always take our roles as seriously as we should. And we had a conversation with a few friends of mine a couple weeks ago about how parents don't recognize how much they jack up their kids.
Right.
And,
that's right.
And I think you've even seen in my book how one of my chapters in my book is don't put your stuff on your children.
Right.
Because the reality is we don't recognize how our jacked up stuff jacks up our kids. We don't realize it. We don't even recognize it, how we're raising our kids in that neglectful manner that our parents raised us. It might be you had your own wounds and then you put it on your kid. You know what I'm saying? You have your own weight issues and you put it on your kid. I remember a mom sitting up there not feeding her baby more bottles. She was only giving them 4 ounces.
Right.
And the child was starving because she had her own weight issues. She's always been a heavy kid. I don't want him to be fat. Really? So you're going to starve him? But it happens all the time because we have our own stuff that we haven't resolved, just like you said with Anyala.
That's right.
Our own stuff that we've never resolved, and then we put it right on our kids. And our kids are having the same issues. We have control issues, so we put it on our kids. So it happens all the time, and I don't think this mom recognizes just how important she is to her daughter.
Right.
And it's really gotten to the point now where when I see it, and I see it often. Sometimes I see the child who is fearful of their dad because they're afraid that if they even open their mouths, they're not going to spend any time with them.
Right.
They don't talk to their mom because they work so much. They don't want them to start, pulling away even more than they already do. So they don't mention anything. They don't say anything. They try to keep the peace in the household. It's unfortunate the way our kids are affected by our actions.
And that's the thing; they're kids. And what I want to do is I want to transition over to the game. But I was having this conversation yesterday as well. I said it's difficult from the teaching perspective because on the one hand, you can't necessarily blame the child in and of itself because they're kids. But at the same time, it's those kids who are giving you hell. So it's but those of us who really know, we realize that's stemming from what's going on, like you said, with that parent relationship in the home. And that's why I'm constantly saying this whole thing starts in the home. And I know school districts struggle with that because they truly feel that's a piece that they cannot control. And I disagree with that. I think there is some impact that districts and schools can have on the home as well. But that's another conversation for another day. I want to talk about the game. Talk to me a little bit about how did you go about creating a game? Because I just saw something on the news the other day about a young man who created a game for an autistic child. But it took like a couple of years for this game to come into fruition. What is it? I mean, it's one thing to write a book, it's one thing to write music, but what is I just never think about game creators. What goes through your mind when you're creating a game?
Well, what's so funny is that because I've been working with children and families for so long, this was kind of like the furthest thing from my mind in terms of how I was going to, help parents and give parents more tools. I honestly, I went back and forth for a while with how I was going to connect with more parents. And, like I mentioned before, the book has been successful. I've, been successful with getting into school districts. My curriculum is doing really well, which is from the book. And I guess when I'm a Shark Tank fan. I don't know if anybody else watches Shark Tank. I love the show Shark Tank. That is like my favorite pastime. And I absolutely love that show. And one day, Kevin O'Leary, who was one of the sharpest tongued sharks, he said to this gentleman who had a very beautiful jewelry line, if you went outside and got hit by a car, what would happen to my money? And honestly, I was like, wow. I always knew that I needed to do something with my company to bring more leverage.
Right.
But it kind of made me think, how else can I reach more parents that if something happened to me, it could keep going? And I honestly thought about Monopoly. I thought about Monopoly and how it's been out for 20, 30, 40 years. People still play it. I teach at Seton Hall in the summertime with Upward Bound students, and we were playing the game the other day, and they were so upset how long it was taking us to finally finish the game that we just threw in the towel and just added up their money to see who won. I was saying, I remember when I was younger, us playing Monopoly all through the night.
That's right.
Going to bed, getting up, and continuing to play
That's
Monopoly.
right. It was the same here.
The game is.
Same here.
And I said, I want something that brings more impact to families, because I know that the book, the book has gone well, but I want to reach more families that might not have read the book or only read part of the book, And the game kind of like came into fruition. So what the game is it's an interactive card game. It allows families to ask more questions to their children. Maybe those questions that you're afraid to ask, or when you said it to them or mention it to your child, you kind of got that eye-rolling thing, like, here we go again, that kind of thing. So it allows for those barriers to be kind of dropped. It allows for the judgment in your tone when you ask that question of, why is that friend come here always with a hat on? Why is that friend come over here and never look up to speak to me? It allows for parents to ask more questions to their kids in a non-judgmental way and in a fun way. So the 4 categories of the games are life and relationships, common knowledge, moral compass, and family history. And the game has a way where it has dice where you can roll, find out who's going to play first, and you go kind of clockwise. And then it has a dice that tells you which category you're going to play. And so life and relationships questions would be something like, I'm reading them now, how can we support one another as a family? Another question would be, how do you define happiness? And the questions basically are, sometimes they're a little deep. They have point values. Some of the questions are like 1 point. Some of them are 3. Some questions ask a little deeper questions, so they're 5. So this one would be, would you say that you were honest with me some of the time, most of the time, or none of the time? This is another question. And then a moral compass question would be something like, if you walked past a bank and you saw a bag of money, would you pick up the bag of money and take it into the bank, or would you keep it? Right? Because that a lot of people would say, I'd grab that money and run, right? So, but it allows for more dialogue with families. Another question for moral compass is, what do you think are some societal views on race and ethnicity? This is kind of like questions that a lot of families may not necessarily discuss.
Right.
Another question for common knowledge would be, what is your favorite cereal? That would be one of the easier questions.
So what now, when they answer the question, points are given, or you move around the board, or what happens? Once you answer the question, what happens?
Right. Well, there is no board. What happens is point values, and everyone gets to keep the card that they're asking the question from. And then you can go up to any point value you want. So if everybody wants to go up to 11, if you want to go up to 20, 25, 50, the family decides. It's a game that allows families to kind of like, to create their own destiny. There's action cards like skip, gamble, pirate, reverse, so that there's a little more competition in the game. So if somebody's winning, you can skip them next time, or if somebody's winning, you can reverse them next time. You can also take somebody's card and get their point value, so that's pirate, where you snatch somebody's card up, or you can throw a card out and not use it, and that's gamble. So it allows for more competition with the families, with the action cards, but then the questions are, they're supposed to be thought-provoking. One of the other questions for common knowledge is, what's the best advice you've ever received?
Right.
What's the best tangible gift you ever received? A family history question would be, what is your great-grandmother's birth date? Which it may require somebody to get on the phone and say, let me call Aunt Mabel and find out, because I don't even know that question, But it allows families to ask more questions to them about families. And have you ever been to a family reunion would be another question. How often do our families get together?
So
what was my great-grandmother's occupation, which is something a lot of people do not know.
So the game is it a deck of cards?
Yes.
Or is there a board associated? There's no board associated with it?
No, there's no board at all. They're decks of cards. All the cards have point values, and they also have categories. And it allows families to roll the dice, find out what category they're going to use, and then they ask the question to the person to their right, the question. And then we add a point. And you can determine whatever point value you're going to go up to, and the person who wins the game gets to choose the next family outing. So it's always about family time.
So is it sort of like a truth or dare type thing?
No, it's not a truth or dare. It's more like allowing families to engage more and maybe ask questions that they might not have asked before. The purpose of the game is to make sure that we're asking questions without judgment. We're asking questions without, looking like we're looking at our children with a screw face, like when we ask them, why do you like that friend anyway? Like that kind of thing. It's just allowing moms and dads to ask their kids more questions. There's questions in there to parents, like, where did you guys get married?
Right.
Where did you guys meet? So it allows kids to ask their parents questions as well, which they might not have ever known. And honestly, I started using these a lot of these questions in my practice. I would have flashcards for my families, and even in workshops, I would have flashcards. And it allowed for parents to kind of like ask questions to their kids. Like maybe one of the flashcards would be avoiding tearing down, and I would say to them, how do you avoid tearing down your child? Another question, communication. I would say, when was the last time you communicated with your child? Really communicated with them. So, I literally have gone into workshops with families and parents. Maybe I might have had 15 people in a workshop or 500 in a workshop where I could say to parents, how many of you really enjoyed being a parent? And not even have to raise their hand.
Wow.
Because parenting is tough.
Well, and we've kind of come full circle going back to where we started. It really is, and people need to understand that before they create. There's a difference between creation and raising.
Yes, it is.
And so you need to understand that before you make that decision to create, you need to understand what you're getting yourself in for. And then even if it wasn't a conscious decision and now the child is here, you still have that in store. You can't abdicate your responsibility, which I think is part of the problem is whether it was forced choice, however the child came into being. The people are like, well, you know what? I didn't intend to have a child anyway, so therefore I ain't gonna raise it. No, you don't get that choice.
No, you don't.
Like once that child is here, you got to do what it is a parent is supposed to do, and too many are not doing that. And I was listening to your questions in terms of like some of the ancestral stuff, and that is so important. And it came even more to light for me. A few years ago, I joined or subscribed to Ancestry.com. And I've been going back into my family tree on both my mother's side and my father's side. And it is I can sit there on Ancestry.com, clicking on my computer, going back and forth to Google, calling people up, Facebooking people for hours, trying to figure out where I came from. I had them do my DNA thing, and they came back with all the different countries that are a part of me and so forth and so on. It is fascinating. And
yes, it is. Yes, it is. Those are questions in the game, like, do we have any family that lives out of the country?
Right.
Where did you live when you were younger? Where did your mother live when she was younger? Just really great questions that we really may have to ask and call people or get on Ancestry.com to answer them.
It really is. I went on. I started going on there and started linking in, and Facebook and social media has been like stupendous. I mean, like I start going into some of the names in there and as I start learning, and I now go into Facebook search. And I don't care how old the person could be, 60, 70, 85, they got a Facebook page.
That's very true.
I was like, wow,
Absolutely.
you know, 60 years old and you on Facebook. All right. I'm not mad at you. 65, 70, you're on Facebook. All right. But
You're right. You're right.
the opportunity, and I'm sitting here now because now I want the game. And so my next question is going to be, if those in the listening audience who've just been intrigued, like I've been intrigued, how do they go about getting the game?
Well, right now we are in the in the thick of a Kickstarter campaign, because the game, in order to get mass production of the game, we have to raise $27,000 so that we can get the game price down. Because right now, you know, if a person was to buy the game, it's like $78 per game.
How many?
So because of that, we have a Kickstarter campaign right now, and it ends on August 15th. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to raise $27,000 to get the game price down, because we're trying to get it to retail of $40. So people can go on my website and they can click on the button in my website, www.optimisticexpectations.com. And on the front page, you can click on a button and you can go right to the page of the game for the Kickstarter campaign, and you could order your pre-order your copy. Because right now I have where people can order for $25, for $30. You know, the different tiers in Kickstarter until those options are no longer available.
Right.
And they can get the game and they can play with their families for generations and generations.
So they actually would get in right now. If more people get in, the lower the price will be.
Exactly. If more people get in, the lower the price will be. Yes. Yes.
Well, I will definitely. I can't because I know where my finances are for this week. But before the month is out, I will have gone to your website and ordered mine. Because I already, just listening to you, I visualized me sitting down with my wife and the two girls playing this, because they like games.
Yes.
And we haven't had a game night or a Monopoly night or Trouble or chess night in a long time. And so this game would be good, and it would allow for some serious dialogue and conversation, because you're right, we don't have that much at this point. And I can imagine, and my, you know, if everybody's house is anywhere close to mine, everybody has their own little room. I have the 20-year-old, she stays in her room on the laptop. I have the 14-year-old that's in there on her phone all the time. My wife sits at her computer, and I'm down in the basement at my computer. And that's, and so that's how, I mean, four of us are in the same house, but everybody's doing their own isolated thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so for the chance to just talk together as a family, we don't even really take it, even though it's there, because everybody's texting and tweeting and Facebooking and looking up this information, and I'm on Ancestry.com, and this one's doing that, and this one's doing that. So the opportunity to sit there and actually sit around the dining room table and pull those cards out, I think is going to be great. And the type of questions, just from the few that you threw out as samples, those are great conversation starters.
Oh, yeah.
I laugh because yesterday I'm sitting on the porch reading. There's a few places you can find me at my house when you come there. And usually when the weather's nice, I'm on the porch reading a book. And the 20-year-old, her little boyfriend comes up on the porch while I'm sitting there. And he came to drop her something. So she comes out on the porch, and they're standing there talking, trying to. So when he leaves, she says, "Oh, my God." She said, "That felt so weird. That was awkward." She said, "Was it awkward for you?" I said, "No." I said, "It wasn't awkward." Why was it awkward for you? I mean, that felt so strange. I said, "Why?" Because I'm sitting there and your boyfriend and you were sitting there talking to each other. But it was just funny to have that experience in terms of, wow, you know, like you really felt like that felt strange for you to be talking to your friend in front of me. But I could see something like that in terms of like, okay, maybe that would not have been quite an awkward a moment for you had we been playing this game.
And having more dialogue. I think that even friends can play. You know, we're going to have another edition come out where friends can play, because my son even took it over to Drexel and his friends over there, and they played the game, and they loved it. You know, so I've been having a lot of good feedback from the game so far, because the questions are, you know, it could be neutral. It could be for friends,
right,
it could be for families, you know, and it can allow people to get to know each other better. But, yeah, that's the goal. The goal is for us to communicate more, and then, you know, the prize of being able to, whoever wins can decide what the family's going to do together next is always allows families
that's nice,
to
too.
Okay,
I like that.
Competition.
That's a nice little spin on there.
Oh yeah. I mean, I even put in there ways for people to work to families to spend time together, just in case they don't have any idea. Whether it's a picnic or whether it's doing a vision board together as a family, or
right.
Whether it's just having some more dialogue or going out to dinner, or somebody gets to choose if they're going to go to Dorney Park. Whatever the case may be. But just allowing families to be able to communicate more, talk more, and then there's a prize at the end where you get to spend more time together.
There you go. All right, well, we're down to the last couple of minutes. I'm going to once again give you the opportunity to say the websites, the name of the game, and how folks can get a hold of it, where you'll be, how they can get in touch with you. This is your chance to promote. All right, so this is your few minutes.
Yes.
You feel free to promote anything you want to promote in terms of the game, the book, your services. Listening audience, get your pens and papers or your recorders or whatever it is you need to get ready. Get them ready so that you can get in touch with Kumari in order to get a copy of the game or a copy of her book. I've read Real Talk, by the way, and matter of fact, I ordered enough copies that every time a parent comes to my office, Kumari, they get a copy of the book. That's as a parting gift. No parent ever leaves my office without a gift, and it's always that book. That's what because I have all the boxes, and so Real Talk is out there amongst the parents at Napier Academy.
I love it. Thank you so much. Yes. And your listeners can get in contact with me, Kumari Ghafoor-Davis, at Coach Kumari, and at COACHKUM as in Mary, ARI, at gmail.com. And my website is www.optimisticexpectations.com. They can find me on Facebook at Kumari Ghafoor-Davis. They can find my website for my company, Optimistic Expectations. And you can find me on Twitter, where I send out blasts every single day, parenting tips. I also send out blasts with great, really inspirational. Sometimes it's really inspirational, just little tidbits about parenting. But you can find me on at Coach Kumari. At Coach Kumari is on Twitter. Thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate it, and I hope to hear from you. You can click on the button on the website, www.optimisticexpectations.com, and you can get your copy of the book. Of the book and also
the game.
Yes.
That's right. Well, I thank you. I thank you for joining me this morning. I'm glad we could introduce folks to the game on here, and I truly hope the Kickstarter works so that you can reach your goal, and then the game will be even less expensive for others who may want to buy it. But
yes,
truth of the matter is, even if it's, and this is going to sound, it is what it is. You want to talk real talk. But even if it had to stay at the $75, $78, $80 level, people buy what they want to buy. And if you could spend $75, $80, $100, $150 for a pair of sneakers, I don't see why you should not, because it's about priorities. I don't see why you would not put that same type of investment, because really that's what it is. It's not a cost, it's an investment. If you listen in terms of what it's going to do for your family, what it's going to do for the relationship between you and your kids, that's not a cost, that's an investment. So if you're willing to spend $150 really for the price of 2 games on a pair of sneakers, and so the hope is that the Kickstarter will work and we can get it down to $25, $35, $40, whatever.
Yeah,
but
$25 on the Kickstarter is $40 retail.
But even if it doesn't,
keep the price.
Even if it was at the $75, there's just some things that are worth it. And I'm saying all that to say, we want you to get in on the ground floor. That's pretty much what we're saying. Get in on the ground floor. But if by chance you can't, at some point in time, it would still be worth the money for the relationships that you could develop with your family. All right. So with that being said, Kumari, thank you for joining me this morning. I'm glad we could let folks know about the game. The more, the merrier. I will be sending some stuff out on all of my social media sites about it. And then whenever I'm done editing this, I'll send you the links to it and everything.
Thank you so much for having me, Mark. I truly appreciate you, and see you soon.
All right. Take care. Have a wonderfully blessed day.
Take care. All right, bye-bye.
All right, bye now. All right, well, see, again, I'm big on priorities. Right now, there's not a dime in my pocket, broke as they come. But when I get my opportunity to get my 25 or 30 or whatever it is to get the game, I'm going to get a copy of that game. I really am. Because like I said, and I mean what I say what I mean. I could see me and my wife and the 2 girls sitting around the table playing this game. And probably the first time through, the questions will seem awkward. Like, oh my God, I can't ask. But the more you do it, the better off everybody will be. Because conversation kickstarters, for lack of a better term. So, all right, we are in the 7 o'clock hour. We're going to do what we need to do to roll over into the M&M hour.